Welcome in everybody to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joe Pisapia, and this is BP NFL. It's week 8. It's time to dig deep, go behind enemy lines, so to speak, with our good friend, the data scientist, Sam Hoppen, to make sure we get the right numbers, the right trends, and keep an eye on those lines as we move through week 8 here. Sam, a lot of injuries continue to pile up and certainly are going to affect a lot of things. And before we even dive in to anything else that was on the agenda, I think we got to talk about the injuries from last night's Monday Night Football game for the Buccaneers. Chris Godwin, devastating injury, out for the year most likely. You know, we're still waiting on the official word, but I think we know where things are going. And then Mike Evans with a hamstring injury. So all of a sudden, Tampa Bay is in a tough spot. Did that game last night, between the loss and the injuries, possibly cost them the division? As we look right now, the division is set at Atlanta minus 180 in most markets, Tampa Bay plus 175. Is this Atlanta basically now having an opportunity to pull away with all of those weapons now missing for quite some time potentially for the Buccaneers?
Yeah, Atlanta's certainly in the driver's seat here. They have a game against each other this upcoming week, so that'll be a huge factor. The Falcons have already beaten the Bucs a couple weeks ago, so if they go up 2-0 against them in the season-long series, then that will go a long way, especially in a tiebreaker. But the Falcons, I'm looking at unpredictable here, which I've mentioned a couple times on the show so far this year. They look at betting lines out to the future to generate power ratings. And according to them, Atlanta has the 31st hardest strength of schedule. So the second easiest. Now, I will say, the team at 32 is the New Orleans Saints, who are 20-1 to win the division. They're only 2 games back. They have lost a game to the Falcons already, but they do play again in Week 18. We're going to talk about the Saints in a little bit, but it seems like they're getting healthier on offense. Could potentially get Derek Carr back this week. Again, being only 2 games back, I don't think I love the Falcons so much that it's theirs, for the
by default.
They're certainly in the driver's seat, like I said, but we've still got over half a season left. There's a lot that can change. So
luckily, and there's a lot more to bet on, and we're going to get to some of the lines of the week. Before we get to those lines, don't forget, a signed Michael Strahan jersey giveaway is still going on. And if you want a chance before the end of the month to get this signed Michael Strahan Giants jersey for free, courtesy of our good pals over at pristineauction.com, all you need to do is head over to bettingpros.com/contest, complete the form, and either download the Betting Pros app, leave a review of the Betting Pros podcast, or subscribe to our social media channels at Betting Pros on X, on TikTok, and at Betting Pros NFL on the IG. The more actions you complete, the more entries you receive. So go ahead and get it done. And remember, we'll be announcing the winner right here on the channel. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube and ring that bell till it goes ding for notifications, so you know if you are the big winner of the Michael Strahan jersey. Big old Michael Strahan. All right, let's talk about the lines and potential movement here. Let's start with the Cardinals and Dolphins. Now, the Tua expectation is that he plays. What does that do potentially to this line once we get official word? And is now the best time to be betting on it, or do you want to wait?
Yeah, I do think the early line is indicating that he will play. The Dolphins opened as 3-point favorites against the Cardinals. It's moved out to Dolphins by 3.5. In some places, he's expected to start practicing on Wednesday, and according to McDaniels, the concussion clearance won't come until after he gets some activity in. But I think the time to bet it is now. The Cardinals are in a pretty bad situation overall. They're coming off of a short week, having just played on Monday Night Football. They are traveling cross country to Miami and playing in the early slot. And again, West Coast teams playing in that early slot is not ideal. The Cardinals also had Sean Murphy-Bunting, their cornerback, leave Monday's game early against the Chargers with a neck injury. So again, if you believe that Tua's going to play, now is the time to bet it. I don't know that the line changes that much if he, is deemed active and playing. It would obviously shift a lot towards the Cardinals if he's ruled inactive, but I think if you're in on Tua playing, then now is the time to bet it.
Yeah, boy, I can't believe Arizona came out with a W. That was a very winnable game for the Chargers yesterday.
I've heard
That's
that
the difference
before.
here. Yeah, it's true. Stop me if you heard this, folks. Very frustrating. So now the Chargers are 500. They're going to be at home this time and facing the Saints. Now we don't know if Derek Carr is going to play, so a lot of this line movement. And don't forget, you can set the line alerts over on the BP app. Download the BP app. Set the line alert so you know when this movement happens in case you want to go bet it. When you have more clarity of what's going on, you can find the best spot too. And when you download the app too, don't forget FP free. Put that code in. You get 30 free days of the premium tools right now. So if you've never downloaded the app, you just watch the shows, this is the time to do it. Use the premium tools. Again, FP free. That's the code we're doing. But back to the Chargers and Saints right now. Derek Carr trying to get back sooner than later here. The Olave injury, the Shaheed injury. I mean, this team is basically, had the worst luck over a 3-week span that you could possibly imagine after a really good start to the year where all of a sudden there was optimism. So is there room to be optimism again, or optimistic, I should say, again, for this New Orleans Saints team here if Derek Carr can get back on track? Or are the Chargers now after this loss going to be too tough to handle?
I do think so. A buddy of mine, Drew Dinzik, has coined the term the widow's maker spot for the Chargers because they are coming off of a short week, having played on Monday Night Football, and the Saints are coming off of extended rest, having played on Thursday Night Football the week before. So there's certainly that going in favor of the Saints. It seems like New Orleans could get both Chris Olave and Taysom Hill back, which, even if Carr is not starting, would be huge for that offense. Rashid Shaheed, obviously, unfortunately, out for the season. And it sounds like Derek Carr is, going to be having some throwing sessions earlier this week to test out where he's at with the injury. If he can't go, then it will be Spencer Rattler. But this line opened with the Chargers as 6.5-point favorites. We've seen that cross the key number in 7 and go out to the Chargers favored by 7.5. So I do think that 7.5 is a lot for a Chargers team that plays slow. They are passing a little bit more, which is something to keep an eye on, but they play slow. The defense is pretty good, but they just don't have the explosivity on offense and aren't able to end the drives really with touchdowns at this point. So on the negative injury front for the Saints, Marshawn Lattimore left Thursday Night Football with a hamstring injury. He's expected to be fine, but their left guard, Nick Saldiveri, is week to week. That offensive line continues to shift players around and around like a carousel and just filtering guys in and out. So I do, again, think the Saints could be in a position if they get Carr back, but even without him, to potentially cover that 7.5.
All right. There's a theme here, obviously, in this segment of the show, because the next game we're going to talk about is the Washington Commanders. And we know the health of Jaden Daniels is a little questionable right now. He had the rib injury now. Luckily, no fracture there. So that's a good thing. Big game this week with the Bears coming off their bye. So they were in London, then on the bye, a little bit of extra time here. Caleb Williams coming off his best performance, probably hearing a lot of noise about Jaden Daniels has been the rookie of the year, and Caleb Williams, saying, hey, what about me? I'm still here, and there's still, as you pointed out, Sam, half a season left to go. So let's talk about the impact of Jaden Daniels' health in this game, what it might mean to the line, and also what the last time you saw the Bears offense out there looking pretty solid. Cole Kmet really working himself in. You've got everybody, on that wide receiver group finally healthy. So that's a big push here right now for Caleb Williams. This is a big moment. The two rookies, the number 1 and number 2 overall pick, going head to head in this game. So what are you looking for with the lines here? Is this the time to bet it? Or again, do we want more clarity before we go into this one?
Yeah, I'm willing to wait right now. This game opened with Washington as 1.5-point favorites, shifted to Chicago as 1.5-point favorites on Sunday night. Now it's out to Chicago by 2.5 on the news of Jaden Daniels' health. Again, his status remains uncertain. He's considered week to week as of Monday. Dan Quinn saying they're hopeful he can play on Sunday afternoon. Obviously, the the NFL hopeful he can play too, with the number 1 and 2 overall picks playing in the late afternoon. But I do think the Commanders will sort of hold this injury information a little close to their vest throughout the week, play it again day by day, not really give an indication until, Friday, Saturday as to whether he's going to play. So if you do, I personally would prefer to wait to bet on the Commanders specifically until I hear about Jaden Daniels and whether he's going to play, because I only want to bet on them if he is going to play, and I'm not worried about laying 1.5 points if the line does shift back out to that with Daniels playing. The other another notable thing for the Commanders, their left tackle Brandon Coleman is in concussion protocol, so we'll see whether he's able to go. And the Bears secondary has a lot of questionable tags right now as well. Tyreek Stevenson and Jaquan Brisker didn't play in their game in London. Kyler Gordon left the London game early with an injury. So again, this will be probably the Commanders' most difficult defensive test so far this year, going against Chicago. But if Chicago's down a couple of those key players and Daniels is playing, then I really like the Commanders.
All right, let's move on here to a look into the future. We already kind of touched on some division futures earlier in the show, but don't forget, if you are also looking to take your betting to the next level, use the BettingPros systems tool that's available on the app too. So the new systems tool is designed to help you find winning strategies to make smarter bets. Customize your betting systems by sport, bet type, and time frame to find the best opportunities using real-time data and expert analysis. Track the performance of different betting systems over time and optimize your bets to increase your chances of success. Download the BP app today and elevate your betting strategy. And like I said before, FP free, that is the promo code to get 30 free days of premium. Now is the time. MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL, all the 3 letters, NCFB. There's another one for you. So October is the greatest month of betting pretty much ever. So go get on it, use the tools, and use the upgraded tools again for free for 30 days, and let's make some money together. All right, let's get a look at the future here. Let's talk about the next thing on the docket, which is the Offensive Rookie of the Year, which is a perfect time considering this head-to-head matchup that we're going to get. Now, on most boards, as you're looking at Rookie of the Year, the beginning of the season, we had Caleb Williams as the heavy favorite. Marvin Harris was in that 2 spot. Daniels was in that 3 at plus 650. We were very much on Jaden Daniels at the plus 650 as the best value. That looked really good. Now we're in sort of a different vein here. Into week 8, Jaden Daniels minus 115. He's the leader. Caleb Williams at plus 100. Malik Neighbors, the distant number 3 at plus 1600, coming off a couple missed weeks and a down performance last week. But it really does feel like a 2-horse race between the 2 QBs. So with what we've seen so far and maybe what we're projecting into the future, how do you see this race at the current state it is, Sam?
Yeah, I do think it is, obviously, like you mentioned, a 2-horse race here with Daniels and Williams playing. But, I think I mentioned it on this show, like the way Jaden Daniels plays, it sort of seemed like he was asking to get hurt. So even if, he does come back, only potentially misses 1 game, I think there's a higher risk of him potentially getting injured again, to the point where I'm not laying into this minus 115 for Jaden Daniels, where I do think there might be a slight bit of value. And if for some reason Jaden Daniels goes down, I think Williams would move to like a minus 500 favorite, assuming things continue to play out. But I do think Brian Thomas Jr. is worth a bit of a peek. I do think he should be favored over Malik Neighbors at this point. He leads all rookie wide receivers in receiving yards. He's also the first player with 500 receiving yards on 30 or fewer receptions through 7 career games since Randy Moss in 1988. He is first in yards after the catch among rookie wide receivers, first in yards per route run, tied for first with touchdowns. He is having a phenomenal season, and I think it's going under the radar because of the sort of stink on the Jaguars as a whole. And if I were to want to bet on a guy catching passes from Trevor Lawrence or catching passes from Daniel Jones, give me the guy with Trevor Lawrence. So this is a long shot. I think he's 25-1 right now in the across the market. So certainly not something you expect to win. But again, if he continues to have some historical outputs like this, continues to score, it's going to be difficult because Puka Nacua had a historical season last year and still did not win the award. So again, something to put a little lunch money on, I think, at this point. I think there's just a little bit of a mispricing in the market with him being behind Neighbors.
Yeah, certainly makes some sense to me. All right, let's go on to the stats that everybody needs to pay attention to for this week. And let's start with your Packers here. And not the Packers offense, which is usually the more fun thing to talk about. Instead, let's talk about the defense and what the numbers bear out when it comes to the Pack. And look, they've been really good at creating turnovers, but is that enough, Sam?
Yeah, we're going to talk about a couple of defenses today. This past week, the Packers had probably, I think, their best defensive performance of the season. And that's mainly because they did not force a turnover and they still held the Texans to 22 points. They set season high marks in pressure rate at 49%, EPA per dropback allowed, and allowed just 55 net passing yards to the Texans. Again, they're doing this. They did this against a Texans offense that I think the public thinks should be good, but they really haven't been all year. On early downs this season, the Texans are 24th in pass rate, 25th in EPA per play, and 30th in success rate. But when they do throw the ball, so they're running the ball a ton on early downs, which is not great. When they do pass the ball, they're still 25th in EPA per play and 26th in success rate on early downs. So this Texans offense is and should be massively downgraded from what we thought they were entering the season. The Packers are now visiting a Jacksonville team that certainly has not been consistent on offense, but I think could have some success against the Packers. I'm sort of selling high on this Packers defensive output against the Texans, knowing that the offense that they were going up against wasn't that great. So over the last 4 games, the Jaguars offense has ranked 5th in EPA per play, 6th in EPA per drive. They're top 8 in passing EPA per play and success rate. They're allowing the 4th lowest pressure rate. Now, the health status of their left tackle, Cam Robinson, is key there. But I think where I want to attack this specifically is with the Jaguars team total rather than the spread, because I don't think the Jaguars defense can really plug many holes at this point. So think that this could be a high scoring game and like the Jaguars team total. We'll see where that's at.
All right, you alluded to talking about defenses. Let's talk more about the Seattle Seahawks defense. Certainly one looked pretty good to open the season, but again, lesser opponents can sometimes make a lesser defense look, well, a little bit more. So far, that's not been the case when the competition's been stepped up. First few weeks were good, last few weeks not so good. Break down the tail of the tape when it comes to the Seahawks defense and what basically the splits look like.
Yeah, so in weeks 1 through 3, they were allowing negative 0.218 EPA per play. That was second best in the league. From weeks 4 to 7, they're allowing 0.14 EPA per play, which is 4th worst. So the last 4 weeks, their early down EPA per play and success rate are the worst in the league over that span. And again, there are a couple of reasons for this. First, like you mentioned, the strength of schedule. In the first 3 weeks, they played Denver, New England, and the first game without Tua for Miami. In the last 4 games, they've played Detroit, the Giants, the 49ers, and the Falcons. And so the competition in terms of the offenses they're facing, certainly a step up from what they did early. Another part of it is just the injuries that they've had over the last several weeks. Tariq Woolen has missed the last couple of games. Rayshon Jenkins is on IR and didn't play last week. Trey Brown didn't play. And then in the front 7, Boye Mafe missed weeks 4 to 5. Uchenna Nwosu hasn't really played at all. Byron Murphy and Jerome Baker missed a couple games. So again, with a lot of shifting pieces on top of increased competition, it's, a compounding effect here that we've seen from the Seahawks. And again, you look at their season-long numbers, they're like 16th in EPA per play allowed. And that doesn't tell the whole story here. So I do think that they are probably at full strength, closer to the 20 to 23 range in terms of defense, because I trust Mike McDonald quite a bit with his scheming and pressures. So it's just something to keep in mind. Again, why you want to look at recent stuff for the NFL for sure. Again, we already have a small sample size in the NFL, which makes it difficult, but there are instances where it really makes sense to focus on those. And I think this is one of those.
Certainly seems like it. Again, timing is everything in the NFL, right? So it seems like the Denver Broncos are catching teams right at the right time more often than not lately. They're not a very impressive offense. I think we can all agree on that with Bo Nix. Defense has certainly done its part, scoring touchdowns, doing everything you could possibly imagine this past Thursday. But here we go. Denver Broncos get another gift here with the Carolina Panthers. So let's talk about this game, what it looks like, and can the Denver Bronco offense once again score enough points here to get another W in Week 8?
I think they can. I mean, if they win, they're going to be 5-3 and in a much better position to make the playoffs than like the Jets, which is kind of crazy if you had told me that 8 weeks into the 8 weeks ago. But
I might have been able to tell you that. I'll just say it. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But anyway, the Panthers defense ranks dead last in every major efficiency metric. They just allowed 40 points to a Commanders team that was led by Marcus Mariota for most of the game. They're, again, not really even fielding a real defense at this point. Like some of their best players have gone down to injury, and it's not good at all. And Denver with Bo Nix is struggling to pass the ball, but I don't think that matters because their rushing offense has actually been pretty strong lately. Over the last 4 games, they rank 6th in rushing EPA per play, 1st in rushing success rate, 2nd in rushing explosive rush rate, and Bo Nix is a part of that. I mean, he's very mobile, obviously able to move the ball, get out of the pocket and scramble when it's needed, which is probably more than he needs to. But again, at this point, I don't know if I like either side in this game, because laying 7.5 points with Bo Nix is not very fun to do. And
it doesn't make you sleep well at night.
Yeah.
I think that's it. You're not sleeping great.
Expecting the Panthers to cover 7.5 is not something I think is going to happen either. So I actually bet the game total under 43.5 shortly before this, because I don't think Carolina is going to be able to move the ball against this Broncos defense, which has been incredible so far this year. I think the Broncos team total over is probably the play here if you're going to play anything outside of that under, because this could very much be like a 30-3 game where the Broncos are able to just move the ball easily, but the Panthers can't at all.
Before we get to the survivor pool pick of the week, I have a question for you. You're seeing some big spreads here. Usually this is what happens, right? We get halfway through the season, we see the teams that are the haves and the have-nots for myriad of reasons, right? Sometimes it's health, sometimes it's personnel, sometimes it's a combination of all those things. When you look at some of the big spreads, and I mean big this week, you're seeing double digits in a few spots. Is it a sense of you're just taking them one at a time, or collectively are you there yet right now where, some of these teams are just going to blow out some of these lesser teams, especially the ones that are traveling?
Yeah, I mean, there are already a couple teams that are dead at this point, just like throwing the white flag on the season. Like the Raiders are not trying to win games. The Titans, I don't think they're trying to win. I think, if you are going to lay the points with some of these heavy favorites, extending it out to the point where it is like a massive blowout, like, taking the Lions minus 17.5 or something like that, just making the tail outcome even further and getting a reward a little bit more for it, I think is the play with those types of games. I do think, it's just with the game then too, like the Browns and Ravens this week, like that greatly depends on who's at quarterback for the Browns, because I think the Browns I think they're going to go with DTR if he is healthy. But Jameis Winston, like from a median outcome, probably is about the same as him, but the tails are much, much fatter for Jameis. Just so
Well,
again,
especially his history of the garbage time.
yeah.
The one thing with Winston is he'll make mistakes and then, he'll throw a ball 60 yards deep, and next thing you know, that spread is dead. And,
So
that's the thing about Winston that's always very dangerous. And he's got a history of doing that to us as bettors.
So I do think it is a very much a case-by-case situation, understanding what some of these team strengths are. I mean, there's a team like the Lions who, when they get ahead, they're going to run the ball and they're going to have success doing so. So they're not going to, be having a couple three and outs late in the game that allow the Titans to get a backdoor cover, things like that. Again, a team like the Ravens is going to be able to salt the game away with Derek Henry like we saw last night. So understanding where these team strengths are, and again, whether they're able to sort of shut the door on any sort of backdoor cover, I think is certainly something to keep an eye on and consider when you are laying the points with these heavy favorites.
All right, let's get to our survivor pool pick of the week. Sam, you kind of touched on it a little bit when we were discussing some of these double-digit lines that we're seeing in the spreads, but you've got one lined up that you feel pretty confident is going to get over that mark in a pretty comfortable fashion.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions. They are probably a top 3 team. The Titans are probably a bottom 3 to 5 team. There's nothing going well on offense for the Titans right now. The Titans defense has played pretty decently. Obviously led up 34 points to the Bills this past week, but I think played a little bit better than that score actually indicated. And again, you look at the way the Lions can win on offense and having so many weapons. Obviously going to be without Jameson Williams this week. He's suspended for 2 games, but I don't think that really moves the needle that much because he's been like phased out, but he's certainly not being used as much as some people may have hoped. So I think the Lions take care of business and win this game.
All right, there you have it, everybody. Survivor Pool picks, the stats, the futures, the line movements. I don't know what more you need, but if you do need more, download the BettingPros app. Again, subscribe to the channel, and when you download the BP app, again, FP free. That's the promo code. 30 free days of the premium tools. You get the tools for free, and then you get the premium tools for free. I mean, it sounds like a pretty good deal to me. So, Sam, as always, thanks for shedding some light with your genius and the stats and the numbers here on us on week 8 and enlightening us. If you need more enlightenment, go to bettingpros.com to check out all of Sam's work. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Sam Hoppen, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.